Most men will never hear what you're about to hear because if this truth actually landed, it would force them to confront something uncomfortable about themselves, not about women, not about age, but about why attraction keeps slipping through their fingers no matter how much they try. If you've ever wondered why some men grow older and become invisible, while others grow older and become quietly irresistible, this is not an accident. It's not money. It's not looks. And it's definitely not confidence the way social media talks about it. There is a psychological shift that happens in a man when he stops needing to be chosen and starts choosing himself. Most never make it there, and that's why what you're about to hear will challenge the way you see attraction entirely. Younger women are not responding to effort, they're responding to absence of need. They are not drawn to men who try harder, they are drawn to men who are already anchored. But here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. The moment you try to copy this vibe, you lose it. Because it can't be acted. It can only be lived. This video isn't about tricks, lines, or behavior. It's about the internal posture that silently changes how people experience you the second you enter a room. If you stay until the end, you won't just understand why this works. You'll understand why most men never develop it, and why chasing attention has been the very thing pushing it away. Watch closely, because once you see this, you won't be able to unsee it. Most people misunderstand attraction because they think it begins with effort. They believe the person who wants more, tries harder, speaks better, or proves more will eventually be chosen. That belief sounds logical, but psychologically it is completely backwards. Attraction does not begin with pursuit. It begins with self-selection. Self-selection is the moment a man decides quietly and internally that his worth is not up for negotiation, not with women, not with society, not even with himself on a bad day. This is where the real divide happens. Younger men often approach life asking, "How do I get chosen?" Older men with this vibe move differently. They ask, "Does this align with the life I've already chosen?" That single shift changes everything. When a man is still trying to be chosen, his energy leaks outward. His words are slightly rushed. His tone seeks reassurance. His actions are subtly shaped by how they might be received. And women feel this instantly, not because they are judgmental, but because the human nervous system is highly sensitive to need. Need creates pressure. Pressure kills attraction. The man who has chosen himself carries no such pressure. His attention is not currency. He is desperate to spend. It is something he allocates carefully. This is not indifference. It is discernment. And discernment is rare. When a younger woman encounters a man like this, something unfamiliar happens. She is not being pursued in the way she expects. She is not being flattered into comfort. She is not being rushed into chemistry. Instead, she is being met with presence. Presence is deeply unsettling to someone used to performance. Because presence has no agenda, the man who has already chosen himself does not try to impress because his identity is not under review. He does not over-explain because he is not seeking permission to exist. He does not rush intimacy because he is not afraid of being alone. And that last point is crucial. Fear of being alone is the engine behind most chasing behavior. It pushes men to tolerate what they shouldn't, to say yes when they mean no, to lean forward when they should stand still. But the man who has chosen himself understands something most people learn too late. Loneliness is painful, but self-betrayal is corrosive. So he would rather be alone than misaligned. That choice radiates stability. Psychologically, humans are drawn to those who seem internally settled. We trust them more, we feel safer around them, we project depth onto them even before they speak. This is why attraction often feels irrational. It's not about what is said, it's about what is felt. A man who is still seeking approval feels unpredictable to the nervous system. His mood depends on response. His confidence fluctuates with attention. That instability registers as risk. But the man who has already chosen himself feels predictable in the best way, not boring, anchored. He is consistent because his identity does not shift based on who is watching, and this consistency creates a paradox. The less he tries to attract, the more attractive he becomes, because attraction is not pulled, it is invited. Self-selection is an invitation without words. It says, I know who I am, I know what I value, you are welcome here if you align, but I will not abandon myself to keep you. That message is profoundly compelling, especially to someone younger who is still forming their own identity. This is where age becomes irrelevant. What matters is not how many years you've lived, but whether you have integrated those years. Some men grow older without ever choosing themselves. They simply accumulate time, not wisdom. Others make the decision early, sometimes painfully early, that their self-respect is non-negotiable. Those men age differently. Their calm is not laziness, it is resolution. They do not chase because chasing implies lack. They do not compete because competition implies comparison. They do not seek validation because validation implies doubt. And here is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. If you need to be chosen to feel worthy, you will always attract from a place of deficit. But when you choose yourself first, attraction becomes a byproduct, not a goal. This does not mean withdrawal from connection. It means connection without self-abandonment. The man with this vibe is open but not porous, warm but not needy, interested but not invested prematurely. And that balance is rare. Younger women are not responding to dominance or control. They are responding to inner alignment. Alignment between what a man wants, what he tolerates, and what he walks away from. There is immense power in walking away calmly, not in anger, not in drama, just with clarity. Clarity signals maturity. Maturity signals safety, and safety, combined with mystery, creates attraction that feels effortless. This is why chasing never works long-term. It may create a tension, but it erodes respect. Self-selection does the opposite. It builds respect first, and attraction follows naturally. So if you take anything from this, let it be this. Stop asking how to be chosen. Ask whether your life reflects someone who has already chosen himself. Because when that answer becomes yes, you won't need to chase attention. Your presence will do the work for you. Most people believe attraction is created through expression, through words, stories, jokes, explanations, effort. They believe the more you show, the more you connect, but psychological depth works in the opposite direction. What draws people in is not how much you reveal, but how contained you are. Silence, when it is not driven by fear, is one of the strongest signals of inner authority. Stillness, when it is not emptiness, communicates self-trust. The man with this presence does not rush to fill space. He does not speak to be noticed. He speaks when there is something worth placing into the room, and that restraint changes the entire dynamic. Most social environments are noisy, not just with sound, but with emotional leakage. People talk too much because they are trying to regulate their anxiety externally. They overshare because they want to be understood. Quickly, they explain themselves because they are afraid of being misinterpreted. But explanation is often a form of insecurity. When someone feels the need to constantly clarify who they are, it suggests they are not settled in that identity yet. The man who has done the internal work understands this intuitively. He knows that presence does not need narration. So he slows down. He listens fully, not to respond, but to understand. He allows pauses without rushing to rescue them. He lets moments land. And this is where discomfort arises for others. Because silence removes the usual scripts, it forces awareness, it brings people face to face with themselves. For a younger woman used to being pursued through attention and affirmation, this can feel disarming. She is no longer being entertained, she is being met. Meeting someone requires presence from both sides, and presence is intimate. This is why stillness often feels more intense than performance. Performance is predictable. Stillness is not. From a psychological standpoint. Humans are wired to seek patterns. When someone is loud, expressive, and obvious, they are easy to categorize. We quickly decide how to respond to them. But when someone is calm, measured, and selective with words, the mind slows down. Curiosity increases. Projection begins. People fill silence with meaning. This is not manipulation. It is a natural cognitive response. The man who understands this does not weaponize silence. He respects it. He knows that not every thought deserves expression. Not every emotion requires release. Not every moment needs commentary. This signals emotional regulation. Emotional regulation is one of the most attractive traits a human can possess. It communicates safety, reliability, and depth without overt displays. And depth is increasingly rare. In a culture obsessed with visibility, restraint stands out. In a world that rewards loud confidence, quiet certainty feels powerful. The man with this presence does not compete for attention. He becomes a point of gravity. Others lean in not because he demands it, but because the space around him feels grounded. Stillness also revel. Acts a healthy relationship with self. If a man cannot sit with silence, he likely cannot sit with his own thoughts. If he cannot be alone without distraction, he will struggle to be present with another person. Younger women sense this at a nervous system level. They may not articulate it, but they feel calmer, more focused, more seen in the presence of a man who is internally quiet, not silent in communication, quiet in reactivity. This distinction matters. The man with this vibe is not emotionally unavailable. He is emotionally regulated. He does not flood the space with emotion to create connection. He allows connection to form naturally through attention and attunement. This is why his words carry weight, because they are not diluted by excess. When he speaks, people listen, not because he demands respect, but because his silence has trained others to value his input. There is also a philosophical dimension to this. A person who is comfortable with silence has accepted uncertainty. They do not rush to control outcomes. They allow things to unfold. This non-attachment is deeply attractive because it removes pressure from interaction. There is no forced chemistry, no performance anxiety, no urgency to define or label. The moment is allowed to be what it is. That freedom creates trust. Contrast this with someone who fills every gap with words. They often create emotional clutter. They confuse intensity with intimacy. They mistake activity for depth. But depth is spacious, and spaciousness allows meaning to emerge organically. This is why the most impactful moments in conversations are often the pauses, the moments where something honest was said and both people sit with it. The man who understands this does not interrupt that process. He respects it. He is not afraid of how he appears in silence. He does not fear losing relevance, because his sense of self does not depend on constant engagement. And here is the subtle but crucial point. Silence and stillness only work when they come from fullness, not absence. Withdrawn silence repels, grounded silence attracts. The difference is internal. One is avoidance, the other is presence. The man with this presence has nothing to prove and nothing to hide. He does not perform mystery. He simply does not overexpose. And in doing so, he creates space for others to step forward. This is why stillness is not passive. It is active restraint. It requires confidence to not fill space. It requires self-trust to let moments breathe. It requires discipline to speak less in a world that rewards noise. So if you are listening to this and wondering how to embody this quality, start here. Slow your responses. Notice your urge to explain. Observe how often you speak to manage discomfort rather than to add value. And choose differently, because when you learn to be still without shrinking, to be silent without disappearing, and to be present without performing, you stop chasing attention. And instead, you become someone people naturally lean toward. Most people think attraction is created by excitement, by intensity, by emotional highs and dramatic gestures. But the human nervous system does not bond through chaos. It bonds through regulation. And this is where emotional control becomes quietly powerful. Emotional control is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel without being ruled by what you feel. The man with this quality does not suppress emotion, but he does not spill it everywhere either. He experiences anger without becoming aggressive. He experiences desire without becoming impulsive. He experiences disappointment without becoming bitter. And that restraint changes how he is perceived. Younger women, often without realizing it, are scanning for emotional safety. Not safety as in boredom or predictability, but safety as in stability. Stability means they don't have to manage your emotions for you. They don't have to walk on eggshells. They don't have to constantly reassure you. And that is deeply attractive. Most men lose attraction not because they are unkind or uninteresting, but because they are emotionally reactive. They take things personally too quickly. They seek reassurance too often. They escalate tension instead of absorbing it. Reactivity creates unpredictability. Unpredictability creates anxiety, and anxiety shuts down attraction over time. The man with emotional control understands this intuitively. He knows that how he responds matters more than what happens. So when something doesn't go his way, he pauses. He does not immediately defend his ego. He does not rush to correct, accuse, or explain. That pause is not weakness. It is authority over self. Psychologically, self-regulation signals maturity. It tells the other person, you are safe here, I am steady, and steadiness is rare. In relationships, steadiness often gets mistaken for dullness because drama has been normalized as passion. But drama is not passion. Drama is dysregulation. True attraction deepens where there is calm. Intensity, not emotional volatility. The man with this vibe creates calm intensity. His presence is felt, not overwhelming. His interest is clear, not desperate. His boundaries are firm, not rigid. He does not punish with silence. He does not chase with emotion. He does not manipulate with withdrawal. He stays centered. This has a profound effect. When a woman senses that a man will not emotionally collapse under pressure, she relaxes. When she senses that he won't overreact to small misunderstandings, she opens up. When she senses that he can handle discomfort without losing himself, she trusts him more. Trust is the gateway to desire. Without trust, attraction stays superficial. With trust, attraction deepens into something magnetic. Emotional control also creates contrast. Most people externalize their inner chaos. They talk through every feeling. They act out every impulse. They expect others to regulate them. So when someone encounters a man who can hold his emotions without outsourcing them, it stands out immediately. He becomes a psychological anchor, and anchors create attraction not through force but through gravity. This is why emotional control is often misread as mystery. It's not that he is hiding something. It's that he is not broadcasting everything. He understands that intimacy grows through earned access, not emotional flooding. There is also a philosophical layer to this. A man who controls his reactions understands that life is uncertain. People will misunderstand him. Plans will fall apart. Desire will not always be reciprocated. Instead of fighting reality, he accepts it. Acceptance does not make him passive. It makes him resilient. Resilience is attractive because it signals long-term safety. It says, I will not break when things get difficult. This matters deeply in romantic dynamics. A younger woman may enjoy excitement, but she subconsciously gravitates toward the man who can contain emotional storms, his own and hers, not by fixing, not by rescuing, but by staying present and steady. This steadiness allows her nervous system to downshift, and when the nervous system downshifts, desire can emerge without fear. This is why emotional control should never be confused with emotional distance. Distance disconnects, control stabilizes. The man with this quality can be warm, affectionate, and engaged without becoming emotionally dependent. He can express interest without losing composure. He can hear criticism without collapsing or attacking. And that balance is powerful. It tells the other person, I am interested, but I am whole. Wholeness is magnetic. Most attraction problems are not about compatibility, they are about emotional imbalance. One person is overinvested, the other feels pressure, and pressure erodes desire. Emotional control removes pressure. It allows attraction to breathe. So if you are listening and thinking this sounds difficult, it is because emotional control requires discipline. It requires noticing your impulses without acting on them. It requires separating your self-worth from someone else's response. It requires learning to tolerate discomfort without escaping it. But the reward is profound when you no longer leak emotion into every interaction, when you stop asking others to regulate how you feel, when you become steady in your reactions. You don't just become more attractive. you become more powerful, because the person who controls himself cannot be controlled by circumstance, and that is the kind of presence people feel before they understand it. So the reflection to leave you with is simple. Before you try to manage how others feel about you, learn to manage how you respond to the world. Because the moment you master that, your presence alone will begin to change the room. There is a reason this quality cannot be copied, downloaded, or learned overnight, because what we are talking about here is not a technique, it is an outcome. The presence that draws people in is not something you practice in front of a mirror, it is something that forms when life presses on you. And you don't collapse. Most people are obsessed with shortcuts. They want confidence without discomfort. They want presence without pain. They want authority without responsibility. But real depth does not work that way. The vibe that feels grounded, calm, and quietly powerful is earned through experience that forces you to confront yourself, not once, repeatedly. This is why advice alone never changes anyone. You can hear the right words and still live the same way. Because wisdom does not come from information. It comes from integration. Men who carry this presence have usually been disappointed without becoming cynical. They have failed without becoming bitter. They have lost without becoming desperate. And that matters because how someone metabolizes pain shapes who they become. Most people either collapse inward or harden outward when life challenges them. They become withdrawn or defensive, needy or controlling. But a smaller G, Roop, does something different. They reflect. They ask themselves uncomfortable questions. They take responsibility where it hurts. They change patterns instead of blaming circumstances. This process is not glamorous. It is often lonely, and it rarely comes with applause, but it builds something invaluable, inner solidity. The man with this vibe has lived enough to know what does not work for him. He knows what drains him. He knows what compromises his self-respect. And he has learned to walk away from those things, even when it costs him comfort. That is not learned in books. That is learned in moments where you choose long-term dignity over short-term relief. This is why restraint becomes such a defining trait. He does not say everything he feels. He does not pursue every desire. He does not react to every provocation. Not because he is passive, but because he is selective. Selectivity comes from clarity, and clarity comes from experience. A man who has not yet paid the price of his impulses will keep defending them. A man who has paid that price learns discipline. Discipline is attractive because it signals self-leadership, and self-leadership creates trust. This is especially important in romantic dynamics. Younger women are not responding to age, they are responding to evidence. Evidence that a man has faced himself and come out more whole, not more fragmented. Evidence that he can delay gratification, that he can handle frustration, that he can stand alone without resentment. That kind of man does not rush intimacy because he knows how easily it can be cheapened. He does not overshare because he understands the value of pacing. He does not chase connection because he has learned the cost of forcing it. There is also a quiet humility that comes with lived experience, not insecurity, humility. He knows his strengths, but he is no longer obsessed with proving them. He knows his flaws, but he is not defensive about them. That balance is rare. Most people either inflate or collapse around their imperfections. They either deny them or define themselves by them. The man who has integrated his experiences does neither. He carries himself with a sense of proportion. He understands that life is complex, that people are inconsistent, that attraction is not guaranteed. And instead of fighting that reality, he moves within it with composure. This composure cannot be faked because it is not a behavior. It is a byproduct of having survived your own inner chaos. Men who have never sat with their discomfort will always try to escape it. They distract themselves. They seek constant validation. They mistake stimulation for fulfillment. But the man with this vibe has learned to be alone without being lonely. He has learned to be quiet without feeling empty. He has learned to wait without feeling anxious. Those capacities are built, not taught. And once built, they change how he moves through the world. He does not rush outcomes. He does not cling to people. He does not negotiate his boundaries because he knows the cost of self-betrayal. Self-betrayal erodes confidence faster than rejection ever could. This is why the vibe feels so grounded. It is the result of a man who has aligned his actions with his values over time, who has said no when it was easier to say yes, who has stayed disciplined when no one was watching. That alignment creates internal peace, and internal peace is magnetic. People can sense when someone is congruent, when their words, tone, and actions match, when they are not pretending to be something they are not. This is why younger women often feel curious around men like this without knowing why. There is no performance to analyze, no contradiction to resolve, just presence, and presence feels safe, not safe in a dull way, safe in a grounded way, the kind of safety that allows desire to exist without fear. So if you are listening and thinking this feels out of reach, understand this presence is not reserved for a specific age or personality type. It is reserved for those willing to go through the work of discipline, the work of self-reflection, the work of choosing growth over comfort again and again, because confidence that is not earned is fragile, but confidence that is forged through experience becomes unshakable. And once you have it, you no longer need to convince anyone of anything. So here is the thought to leave with you. Stop asking how to appear confident. Start asking what kind of life would make confidence unavoidable, because when your life is built on self-respect, your presence will speak long before you do. Most people believe power comes from control, from steering outcomes, from ensuring things go the way they want. But the deepest form of power is the opposite. It is detachment from outcome, not apathy, not indifference, but inner independence. The man with this quality is engaged without being attached. He is interested without being dependent. He moves forward without gripping the result. And this changes everything. When someone needs a specific outcome to feel okay, their energy tightens. They watch reactions too closely. They interpret silence as rejection. They chase reassurance without realizing it. That need is felt immediately, not logically, nervously, because the nervous system is always asking one question beneath the surface. Is this person stable without me? If the answer is no, attraction weakens. If the answer is yes, curiosity grows. Detachment from outcomes signals internal security. It says, I want connection, but I don't require it to validate my existence. That message is powerful. Most people operate from emotional contingency. They feel confident when things go well and collapse when they don't. Their mood, self-worth, and behavior fluctuate based on external response. The man with detachment does not operate this way. His center does not move every time the environment shifts. This does not make him cold, it makes him grounded. He does not need to win every interaction. He does not need to be liked by everyone. He does not need closure to move forward. And because he doesn't need these things, he often receives them naturally. This is the paradox most people struggle to accept. The tighter you grip an outcome, the more it slips. The looser you hold it, the more space there is for attraction to form. Why? Because attraction thrives in freedom, not pressure. Pressure creates resistance. Freedom invites participation. A younger woman feels this immediately. When a man is detached from outcome, she does not feel like a prize to be won. She feels like a person being met. There is no silent demand beneath the interaction, no emotional transaction taking place, and that absence of pressure feels refreshing. It allows her to choose rather than react. Detachment also signals abundance, not abundance of options, but abundance of self. The man with this quality knows that his life is full regardless of who enters it. He has purpose, he has direction, he has standards, so connection becomes an addition, not a rescue. This is crucial. When a man needs someone to complete him, he unconsciously hands over power. His behavior shifts. His boundaries soften. His authenticity erodes. But when he is already complete, He can stay honest. Honesty is attractive, not brutal honesty, aligned honesty. He can say what he wants without fear. He can accept no without collapse. He can walk away without resentment, and walking away calmly is one of the strongest demonstrations of self-respect, not in protest, not in silence meant to punish, but in clarity. Clarity says, "This doesn't align with me." And alignment is magnetic. Detachment from outcome also allows patience. The man with this quality does not rush intimacy. He does not fast-forward connection to secure certainty. He allows things to unfold at their natural pace. This pacing builds trust because it shows he is not trying to extract something from the interaction. He is present for the experience itself. Philosophically, detachment reflects an understanding of impermanence. He knows that nothing is guaranteed. People change, circumstances shift, desire fluctuates. Instead of fighting this reality, he accepts it. Acceptance creates peace, and peace creates confidence. This confidence is not loud. It does not announce itself. It is felt. It feels like calm certainty, like steadiness without rigidity, like interest without urgency. This is why detachment should never be confused with disinterest. Disinterest disengages. Detachment liberates. The detached man is fully present in the moment, but not psychologically hostage to it. He enjoys connection without clinging. He invests without over-investing. He cares without losing himself. This balance is rare. Most people swing between attachment and avoidance. They either hold too tightly or disappear entirely. The man with this vibe holds lightly, and that lightness makes others feel free to lean in. Because freedom is attractive. It allows desire to arise organically rather than defensively. Another important aspect of detachment is self-trust. The man who is detached from outcome trusts that he will be okay regardless of how things unfold. He does not catastrophize rejection. He does not personalize delay. He does not interpret uncertain. Thank you as failure. This trust creates emotional resilience, and resilience is deeply attractive. It communicates that he can handle disappointment without bitterness, that he can move forward without dragging the past behind him. This makes interactions feel clean, unburdened, alive. People enjoy being around someone who is not emotionally heavy. Detachment removes emotional weight. It allows playfulness without fear, depth without dependency, connection without obligation, and that combination is powerful. So how does one develop this quality? Not by pretending not to care, but by building a life that does not collapse when something doesn't work out. By investing in purpose, in discipline, in self-respect, by learning to validate yourself before seeking validation externally. Detachment grows when your sense of worth is internalized, when your identity is not up for negotiation in every interaction. This is why detachment cannot be faked, because the moment someone challenges you, your reaction reveals whether you are truly free or just pretending. The man who has this quality remains centered under pressure. He does not rush to secure certainty. He allows uncertainty to exist, and that comfort with uncertainty is rare. Rare things are attractive. So the reflection to leave you with is this. If you want to become more magnetic, stop trying to control how things turn out. Start building a self that remains steady no matter how they do. Because when you no longer need the outcome, you finally become someone others want to move toward.